Short, sharp break here at Isle of Magic 2023. Formula V's on track, and we have the luxury of the guy that has been calling the State Series Formula V's for numerous seasons now, joining us back here in the commentary booth. Welcome back, Steve de Vries. You are full bottle on all of these Formula V's. In fact, you probably don't even need the grid sheet. You can just feel it flowing through your veins where they're all sitting out on track at the moment.
Oh, it's getting very, very close, Darren. Good afternoon again, everybody. This is a very, very big occasion for Formula V. It is not only the biggest field of cars here this weekend, it is a national Formula V event. The Australian Series is also on the line. There's 3 people that could possibly win it. There is also some permutations in the Formula V Victorian Club Championship at play. And of course, we are honouring the late, great Brian Sambo Sampson, who was a proud sponsor of Formula V since 2009 with Spec Own VHT. And we're racing with memorial stickers on all the Vs in his honour this weekend. So there's been a little bit of a change here. I'm just having a bit of a look through the order that Jake Rowe's been placed on pole position at 61 there, but I think that's actually an error. I think that's actually meant to be Reef McCarthy's name there, not Jake Rowe's name aboard the 61. So a little bit of an issue going on there. And there's been a few drivers that have got the wrong names on them. So running through the grid order, it's Reef McCarthy who's going to be on pole in the Beecham number 61 from Heath Collinson. Then next door on the next row is Michael Kinsella, who is your current 2-time defending National Challenge champion, ahead of the state champion from Queensland for this year, Alex McDonald. Curtis Porter in 5th place, also out of Queensland, followed by Jake Rowe in the 66. Then you've got Daniel Reynolds from the ACT and Lee Partridge. Rounding out the top 10, Nick Jones and Andre Curran. There is such a big, long field of names. Let's just rattle them off as they go from 11th all the way through. So Brandon Taylor and David Casely, both from WA, come next. Ash Clifford from Victoria, Brodie Nunn from Queensland, Damien Spinello and Darren Power, Rod Lisson from WA. Claudia Lennox is the first of the 4 ladies here this weekend. She starts out of 18th. Ed Lawrence, Malachi Windsor, then going back to Paul Maltoni, Gavin Stubbs, Charlie Richardson, Ken Philby. Great to have Ken back in the field. It's been a couple of years since we've had him fly down from Queensland. Mick Fisher, Mark Moran, Danny Chero, he's from WA, Michael Westerhout from Queensland, and then the last of the cars, the last 8, Rocco Spinley, Sean McKenzie, Kelly Egan, Kenneth Ray, Franz Estabauer, Kathy Lisson, Cameron Bell, Gregory Johnston and Brock Hamilton is the last car on the grid. What a list of names. There is some great depth in this field, Darren. I'm a little bit biased. I'm a little bit jealous because I think we're going to be in for a cracking trophy race tomorrow afternoon with the amount of drivers, the quality that's in this field. But first, we've got to get through 2 preliminaries.
I was going to say, don't undersell this race too much, Steve, because they're going to want to make sure they're still at the front end of the field to get that main race, the Maury Fordham Memorial Trophy, later on tomorrow afternoon. So what a field. As far as we can see, up under the Melbourne sign and right the way down to the Australia-Melbourne sign at the start of the grid. Steve, this is going to be an absolute ripper. And I'm going to let you have some room to breathe here and see if you can get through the first couple of laps with just breathing through your ears.
Well, let's see how we go. 2 men on the front row that know how this goes. They've got 6 of the last 7 or 8 Maury Fordham trophies between them. Reef McCarthy's been married to it for the last 4 years. Heath Collinson won it back-to-back in 2015 and 2016. They know how this works. They get the jump off the front row, and we are away for preliminary 1 for Spec Own VHT. Jake Rowe's had a terrible start from the 3rd row of the grid. He's looking for a second gear. The car number 66 is not going anywhere, and he is sinking through the field. Thank goodness
he got moving there, Steve. He was a sitting duck when he was sitting still. He's managed to get some sort of motion, but that was lucky. It gave the field an opportunity to stream around him.
Absolutely. Very, very lucky. Formula 4 cars compared to Formula V cars, there's a very, very big difference in terms of the width of the car. So there was a lot more real estate on the track for drivers to get around him. These cars being much, much more narrow than their bigger brother, the Formula Ford, of course, with a different engine in the back, not a Formula VW engine in the back. Nonetheless, the whole field is on their way. There go the birds. They're getting a good scaring from all the big Formula Vs running down towards turn number 4, 3 wide in some cases. And McCarthy holding sway for the moment over Collinson. And then the next 2, which was Michael Kinsella in third place, and it looks like Curtis Porter's made a move too. He's made up one extra spot at the expense of Alex McDonald.
Lee Partridge has jumped up a couple of spots off the start there as well. Started out of 8th. He's now fighting up for 5th on the road here as well. So the Victorian, who has been very fast over the last couple of rounds, has found his way through the first half a lap nicely.
Actually, I called that one incorrectly as well. Looks like Curtis Porter's actually lost 2 spots there. So he started out of 5th. Looked like he's gone back to 7th, and that was at the expense of Partridge coming through. A couple of similarly liveried cars in the field. A little bit difficult to spot at a distance.
Gee, Partridge now into 4th place. Made a nice move under brakes down into MG the first time there. I would suggest that his foray forward might stop at this point. There's an old rule in Formula V racing. You don't want to lead until you actually get the checkered flag hit you on the nose.
That's exactly right. Now, McCarthy has had the gauntlet thrown down to him in the last couple of state rounds as well by the likes of Lee Partridge at Calder last time out, by the likes of Nick Jones last time here at Phillip Island. So he hasn't had it all his own way. So I think what Partridge and Jones have sort of worked out is they've got to sort of strike early, and I think a few of the Formula V drivers that are here from interstate are starting to realise that they probably need to strike early and follow that sort of similar lead if they want any chance of finishing at the pointy end of the field, just like Michael Kinsella's done. He's gone through there on Alex McDonald into 2nd place, and this is the big game of chess that happens. There's going to be a lot of change happen over the course of the next 7 or 8 laps. And there's already a nice little breakaway group here. Looks like it's 6 cars heading down into turn number 4. The last of those cars in the queue is the Checkmate, number 78 there, which is actually piloted by Daniel Reynolds. We haven't seen him for a couple of years. Much used to seeing him in an orange and black Sabre 02. He's now at the helm of Paul Corcoran's Checkmate, doing a nice job there in 6th place, as all 37 of these Formula V cars stream through turn number 4. Little battle groups going on there. Big lock-up for the number 24. Going down there into turn number 4 as well. Just looking to see who that one was. In a few seconds, that was Kenneth Ray. Yep, there you go. And the last of those cars on the road is actually Greg Johnston in the 1200 class. There's only 1 or 2 of them here this weekend. Greg Johnston's actually secured the National Series title by virtue of Stephen Butcher not making it here this weekend. Big thanks to Stephen Butcher as well for updating the Australian Series points for us throughout the weekend. We'll be able to bring you all the permutations with that one. But
has Kinsella gone through into the league?
I think he has. Yes, he has.
Yes, too. Well, gone through in the last half a lap or so there. So 35 leading the way there. And this is the permutations of a Formula V race just starting to take out. They've all read the script. Laps 1 and 2, we do this. By the end of lap 2, we'll all start to fan out, and we'll start to see how the train lines up. I do like the fact that the Sabre that is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the road is a Sabre, but is also known as Sophie.
Yes, everybody's sort of got a little bit of a nickname for their car, I think. I looked in the entry list, there's some that are called them L, and in the case of some of the Jaces, I think there was one for Rob Vile calls his Heidi. They've all got, it's almost like Jamie Whincup. They've taken after him when he called his car, was it Kate, I think, back in the day, the championship winning Kate.
Winning car, for sure, but I like that. Lee Partridge has got a pretty zany kind of livery on that car. A great bloke that runs operations down there at MPC, but or whatever it's called, MPC Autosport now, is emblazoned on the side of his Sabre, and does a terrific job. Runs the Molecule products, so he always smells fresh. He's always got the nice Molecule spray in the driving suit, so he's a big advocate for that product.
He certainly is. A couple of battle groups starting to pair off here. So we talked about the top half a dozen drivers. Then there's about another group of 4 or 5 after that. And then Nick Jones, David Casely, you were just pointing there. He's actually set the fastest lap of the race so far from Western Australia. So he's in 9th place in the number 807, 153.8.
He's actually, Steve, there. Casely and Jones. Casely setting the fastest lap. But Jones last time here was a race winner.
He was.
And now he's down in position 10.
Just amazing to see how the script sort of changes, and I know that there's been a car change for Nick Jones in the last 2 rounds. He was in a different car here at Phillip Island as he looked to the number 96 of Claudia Lennox, going down the inside there of one of the interstate competitors. Looks like that's car number 50, Brodie Nunn, out of Queensland. Nick Jones was actually piloting a slightly different Sabre 02 last time he was here. He's jumped into Mark Mitchell's car the last 2 rounds and doesn't feel like it's quite been the same. So I'm not putting it solely down to just cars just yet. They are the same sort of make and model of car, but just a few different little things that might be different between the two cars. There goes Nick Jones, that green and blue machine just disappearing into the bottom of the shot.
Cars fanning out all over the track here outside the top 10 there as well. Now, we just touched on Claudia Lennox, and this is 20, 21, 22, 23 up to 26 we're looking at now. So there's the World Championship for Formula V's going on in about 3 or 4 different battle packs within the top 20 cars. We've had 37 start the weekend, and this is just a brilliant turnout for Formula V's.
This is a fantastic turnout. One of the biggest fields we've seen since on the mainland here in Victoria since the National Challenge last year up at Winton, which was won by Michael Kinsella, who's the 3rd car in the train there. He then went down to Baskerville just a couple of weeks ago and defended that title. So he is a 2-time defending champion. He's won that 4 times now, the National Challenge. And then it was Jeremy Dwyer in the 1200 class taking a win down there in Tasmania for the National Challenge as well. So plenty of these drivers are on their way home from National Challenge, stopping off at Phillip Island for a last-minute run before heading back across to Western Australia or back to New South Wales, wherever they've travelled from. In the case of the Western Australians and a couple from Queensland, they've actually hired a truck to bring them all down specifically for this event. They were targeting last year. I was talking to the club president, Mark Moran from Queensland, earlier this morning. They were looking to bring, several cars down last year, but just circumstances didn't go their way. A couple of mechanical failures in the round prior just sort of called them having to cancel it off, and they've managed to get down this year. So it's great to have good representation from 4 states: West Australia, Queensland, WA, New South Wales and Victoria, making up 37. As Gordy Nunn's having a little bit of a look on the inside of Darren Power in the 44 here at the final corner in this little battle group that we've been watching for the last half a lap or so. Darren Power having switched over to the Acura Motorsport stable with his Jacer chassis in the last couple of rounds, so it's good to see getting a bit of support from the team down there. Another change for the lead here up the front. So McCarthy's gone back to the head of the queue. Tucked in behind him is the number 78 there. And then 3rd in the queue, Michael Kinsella. So down the inside now comes Daniel Reynolds. He's won this title once or twice before, I believe, and it was all the way back in 2011 for Daniel Reynolds. So a long time between drinks for him for Maury Fordham trophies. Started back in 1991. First awarded to Warwick Manderson. He took the first 2 of them out, and Frank Hare was the one that was the benchmark with 3 of them until Reef McCarthy equalled him in 2021, and then went one better and stands alone with 4 of the Maury Fordham trophies, the last 4 consecutive to be exact. 2019, 2020, 21 and 22. So he's looking to make it an unheard of 5 in a row, let alone 5 of those trophies in general. So that'd be an outstanding achievement, but I think he's got his work cut out for him so far this weekend. Certainly with the field the way they are at the moment, he's got his hands full as we're focused in on here. Rod Lisson from WA in the number 71. He's in the Sabre 02. He's being chased by number 49 there, Damien Spinello, in the Acura Motorsports Jacer.
The interesting thing here, Steve, is that we're not even inside the top 10, and this is, in fact, this is from 14th in the race back to about 25. So this battle pack has started to add a few to it. They're catching the odd one or two at the front, and some are sort of joining in from the back here. And this is absolutely typical Formula V racing. You touched on Maury Fordham before. Maury Fordham was instrumental in bringing the first Formula V Nationals here to Phillip Island 40 years ago, whatever it was. And we've seen it from time to time, and it is just a massive lineup of Formula Vs, and you cannot fault this racing. It is so entertaining, and that is why we see seasoned veterans that just stay in Formula V. They just love this. Nick Jones has been around for a long time, and just loves to keep coming back for it. Heath Collinson, Reef McCarthy. Reef McCarthy is trying to prove his worth as potentially a pro race car driver, but getting laps in a race car is what it's about. If you can keep the costs to a reasonable level, I'm not going to say cheap, because there is just no such thing as, even XLs can't say they're cheap racing anymore. There's just no such thing as. But certainly keep it to a minimum level.
Yes.
And, well, it's also how much commitment you want to give to it as well. And you can just go down and talk to any of this group that we're currently watching, the front pack, and talk to them about how much commitment they need, and then they'll say, yeah, it's a high level of commitment. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money.
It's about what's affordable nowadays, isn't it? Not so much about what's cheap, but what's affordable. And I sort of
and what's affordable to you and what's affordable to me, and then the next guy. Three different things, aren't they?
If you're comparing apples and oranges, or apples and apples even, I think probably the two categories that are the most affordable in the grassroots motorsport nowadays are likely to be the Formula V and probably the saloon cars to a degree. They seem to offer the best value for money when it comes to racing. You mentioned Nick Jones a few minutes ago. He's actually joined the back of this group. So this is a battle pack of 10 cars now. He's sitting in 9th in the queue, just ahead of Andre Curran in the Aussie boat sales entry. But this is what I expected to see, sort of forming a group of 10 cars toward the back end of the race. Here's a replay of someone going off. Oh, loose nose cone there for number 6. That's one of the West Australian cars, I believe, going off at down the circuit there. So they might actually have a number change. I think that's not quite made it through to the grid sheet there. Just going a little bit deep at turn 4. Paul Maltoni, possibly. It might be, yes, 906. I think that probably might be Paul's car there, just as doesn't have the right car number on the front.
There's a couple of cars sporting a bit of a blood nose there at the moment. I think that one we're looking at right there, look there, is that the
51? I think it is, yeah. It looks like the 51 there of Alex McDonald.
Yeah, he looks like he's got a blood nose. So there has been a bit of prize fighting going on out there at the moment, and Steve's touched on it. This is a national round, and we are closing right in on the end of the year. Lock up there. That's the 35 at Kinsella. So they're starting to feel the pressure. We're starting to come down towards that part of this race. There's probably 3 laps to go. You would probably suggest get this one around plus 1 more.
Yeah, probably 2 or 3 laps to go, I'd say. All big lock up there for Rod Lisson down in the middle of the pack there in the Litec entry. And Malachi Windsor down the inside in the Sabre 01. Very, very different makes and models of car there.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Steve, we're not too far away from an open wheeler festival here this weekend. We've got the grassroots of Formula V. We've got the stars of the future in Formula Ford, and we've got those that are trying to push onto an international career in Formula Open. So a really big treat for those that like open wheeler racing, and I'm tipping if you're at the track here today, you do like open wheeler racing because it's the enthusiasts that come to these sort of events. And if you are watching from anywhere around the country, we'd love to see you here trackside. So you can get on a plane from Darwin and be at the races here tomorrow if you want, or just an easy drive down the highway from Melbourne.
Absolutely. Race leaders are starting to come across a little bit of lap traffic. I think that's Greg Johnston, 1200 entry. They've just rounded up on the front straight, but they've rounded him up without too much trouble. And this group of 7 or 8 cars is going to be the next on the scene. Claudia Lennox done a fantastic job here. Not only was she the lead lady in qualifying, she's held her own in this group of 7 or 8 cars, doing a fantastic job out in front. That's normally the car that Nick Jones has piloted for several years, the Jason 98. He's now moved on to the Sabre 02. Claudia's taken over that car instead of the Sabre 01 that she'd been driving for the last couple of seasons, doing a fantastic job in a very, very well-prepared car by Phil Chapman. Now it starts to get interesting. This will be the second last lap. This is what you want to sort of start figuring out where you want to position your car. Do you want to be at the lead of the queue? Do you want to be second in the queue and try and slingshot down to the start-finish line?
You just want to be in the queue, don't you?
You just want to be in the queue.
You just want to be part of it.
You want to be there or thereabouts coming to the last lap. And
I like it at this point in time, and I can only look around the room. There's only you and I in it, but both you and I have got grins from ear to ear at the moment. And this is what everyone watching Formula V racing, you take the time out of your day and you count it down to the last 2 laps, and this is where it really comes alive.
Daniel Reynolds has stolen a little bit of a march here. He's got a nice little margin. It's not insurmountable, but it's a little bit of a cushion. He's just got to be careful because there is some lap traffic just ahead. Just trying to work out who that is. It might very well be, it might be Franz Estebauer potentially. I'm just out of the shot there. I'm not 100% sure if it is him or not. Need to get a bit more of a better look on the cameras just to see if it is indeed him.
Well, what we don't want to see is this car play any part in what's coming up behind him. It's got car 78.
He's going to be caught down the front straight if that is the case. Whatever the car is, actually pulling over to the left-hand side. I'll get a read on. Last lap board goes out. It is car number 30 who is in the queue there. So it's actually Mark Moran from Queensland. Apologise to Franz. It's Mark Moran there, the car that's on the right-hand side of the track there, letting the leaders go through. Doing a really good job there, trying to stay out of the way of the much faster and more powerful 1600cc machinery.
Daniel Reynolds has done a magnificent job. He started out of 7th place, leading on this last lap here. This is a dangerous position to be in a Formula V. Sounds strange, doesn't it? But yet, let's see how this plays out. He led the last lap. He came across the line, and the last lap board came out in the fact he led the last half a lap. Now it all starts to unfold in front of us.
Now, there's national implications in here as they get through turn number 4. Any one of these 3 drivers can win the Australian Series. It's Michael Kinsella, Reef McCarthy or Curtis Porter. They are the 3 that are mathematically in the hunt. Tyrone Wiseman was actually second in the running order, but is not here this weekend. So it's down to those 3 gentlemen. There's maximum of 90 points on offer for the weekend, and you drop your worst round. So they are the 3 mathematically in contention. They are all in this group.
Curtis Porter right off the back though here. He's almost not in contention now, so swings back to those other 2 in the front of this one, and then you throw in a Reef McCarthy and Heath Collinson just to spoil your race victories here at this point in time.
Reynolds has done really well to hang on for a lap and a half here and set the fastest lap of the race on the penultimate lap. But they're coming to the checkered flag this time. He's got another little bit of an air cushion here as well. He might have done enough to pick up the win here in Speco VHT preliminary number 1. He may be safe. The real question is what happens behind with the likes of Kinsella, McCarthy, Collinson and co. It's going to be Reynolds. He'll get the win here. Great drive in the last couple of laps. McCarthy will get second. Collinson's going to get third ahead of Kinsella and McDonald. So that's a great finish to preliminary number 1.
And in the end, Curtis Porter down to 9th there. So, boy, that puts a real fire under the National Championship. Have a look at this round on the last corner. This is the battle pack just outside the 10.
Will Jake Rowe get a couple of spots here? Because remember, he had that really tardy start out of the 3rd row of the grid. He's tucked in here behind Darren Power. Is he going to pull out of the slingshot? Is he going to get him? He's going to get it by a nose. Great judgment from the number 66 GR Motorsport Electrics driver. What did that net him in the final finishing order? I think that has netted him, waiting for the timing screens to actually update there. I'm wondering if that sort of netted him maybe a position just outside the top 10. If that's the case, that's a hell of a recovery drive.
It is. It was a horrible start, and he saw the whole world disappear in front of him there. In fact, even the ambulance and the course car
would have gone past
him as well. So that's a really good... it's those sort of races that make your racing career. You've had a big downfall, or you've had something that hasn't gone your way. Gather your thoughts, put it behind you, and just get on with the race. Pass as many cars as you can safely, bring it home, because you've still got a whole weekend of racing still to go. And having said that, we see Formula V's on track tomorrow at 11:20 and then again at 3:05.
Just noticing as well that it looks like Jake Rowe may have actually been docked a lap. I'm not sure if he's been in the pits or if there's a timing issue there, but I'll wait to see what the end result there is when everything is said and done, whether or not he actually did come in the pits or whether he legitimately was on the road there. We've skipped the top 10 there just for a little moment. We've gone to position 11, but top 10 results: Daniel Reynolds, Reef McCarthy and Heath Collinson, the top 3 from Michael Kinsella and Alex McDonald. So the top 3 covered by 0.5 of a second. So that's a really, really good start to proceedings here for Formula V. Lee Partridge and David Casely, 6th and 7th. Andre Curran, Curtis Porter and Nick Jones, the top 10. And there's the confirmation of just how close the top 10 was. 3.3 seconds, first to second. Top 5 there, just under half a second. So what a great start to the biggest field of the weekend in Formula V. Then it was quite a margin end of the day from Nick Jones in 10th all the way back to Ash Clifford and Brandon Taylor, nearly 10 seconds there to those 2. And then that group we were just eyeing off at the last minute there: Darren Power, Damon Spinello, Malachi Windsor, Rod Lisson and Claudia Lennox. Claudia leading a good portion of that little group there just up until the last couple of moments. Brock Hamilton started off the rear of the grid, 37th place. He made his way up to 21st, so that's an excellent drive for the driver who's only been in the car for 3 rounds now. Charlie Richardson there in 22nd. Ken Philby still coming to grips with his Sabre 02 after 2 years of not driving that car. So he finishes in 23rd. Michael Westerhout there from Queensland, 24th. And Cameron Bell, he started toward the rear as well. And some of the Victorian regulars there in Mick Fisher, Kelly Egan, Gavin Stubbs. Danny Cher over there from WA in 29th, and then the rest of the field after that. But it looks like everybody got home, importantly, so that means 37 cars back out on track tomorrow. And look at those clouds, Darren. They do not look great, do they?